A group of dangerous criminals is being transported on a cargo ship under heavy guard, but when chaos erupts, blood spills, bodies drop, and survival becomes nearly impossible.
인간 진화의
The story of the movie begins with a group of international prisoners who are the most dangerous and fiercest prisoners, and their charges are serious and criminal. So they are transferred from the Philippines to Korea, and the police take over this task, and their transfer arrives through a giant ship across the sea. After that, a group of special forces enter the police center, and through this center they follow the movement of the ship until it reaches Korea. But there is an obstruction in the police affairs because they did not receive orders to evacuate the center, but the commander of the forces gives them the order or expels them from this place, and these forces come specifically to follow the movement of the ship because the prisoners who inside it are very dangerous and can escape at any moment. And the process of transferring them is extremely secret. Meanwhile, all the prisoners enter their cells and the file is read. The induction of each prisoner, and now we learn about the huge number of crimes they are involved in. Next, we learn about a prisoner named Park Do, who is accused of killing 13 people and is also accused of robberies. We learn about the most dangerous criminal, whose name is Young, who is accused of using human bodies for illegal purposes, in addition to other first-degree criminal operations. Then we learn about the criminal, Joy, who is accused of killing her husband and his family. And here, all the cells are closed on them, and the police chief gives some instructions to the guards and warns them about these prisoners. He assures them that the shift times are theirs, and tells them that the duration of this trip will be 3 days. The doctor and the assistant will be on board the ship, and this doctor is worried because he will take some of his own medications and take them to the kitchen, and now we see a group of people, and they wear a uniform different from the police uniform, and this is their work inside the ship. They cooperate with the police and help them. The doctor enters and takes his meal and leaves. After that, he goes down to the ship's engine room, and we notice that he enters a specific room according to the map he has on his tab. Then 2 strange people arrived and he introduces himself to them, and they show him the location of the rotten corpse found under a huge amount of insects. The doctor tries to complete his work and injects a needle and leaves the place quickly. The head of the special forces was following the condition of the ship and its movements and knew that the ship had left the international water and that things were very normal. However, he knew that the weather would be bad or that it might rain heavily, but it would not affect the ship. We also know that all the workers on the ship are cooperating with the criminal Park, and suddenly Park takes advantage of the police's preoccupation and takes out a piece of iron from his throat and tries to open the handcuffs on his hands. Indeed, he succeeds, and when he finishes, he throws the piece, and one of the workers comes, and they receive the order from their boss Park, who is in the cell, to start the next mission, and when they are given the order, they go to change their clothes and take the rest of their equipment to free the prisoners and also to free their boss Park. After that, we know that these workers are basically Park's men, and they killed the real workers on the ship and took their clothes, and then they were able to deceive the police that they are workers on the ship, so they come on time to take the shift from the police. But one of these criminals forgot to hide his weapon, and suddenly the police notice him, and a battle begins between the police and the criminals. But the criminals were able to kill them because they were equipped with powerful weapons. They were also able to use knives and hanging and other things, and they were able to kill all the police present in this cabin. And when they finished, they headed to the ship's leadership, and they also started killing the captain's assistants for a while, frightening and threatening him. They asked the leadership crew about a way they can communicate with Korea, and out of their fear, the crew guides them on the way, so the criminals start smashing all the communication devices, or they actually manage to cut off their connection with Korea, and the ship's signal is lost, and tension spreads completely, and the head of the forces expected that something destructive would happen. Because these criminals are known for their danger, then we see the criminal Park and his friend. And they were freeing themselves. But the police feel that nothing is wrong with them. Then the police discovered that he had opened the handcuffs, and Park began to move from his place to kill the policeman without a sound, and came to the policeman and began to strangle him. But the police continued to resist and did not surrender. And suddenly, Park's brutality appeared. So Park's friend quickly moved, hit him on the head and killed him, and the matter got out of control. And the rest of the police heard. Park kept fighting them. In the meantime, Park's men entered. The policemen, all the criminal prisoners, did not know what was happening. As for the ship tracking center, it is now following up on the search for the missing ship, so they contact the satellite center, and the nearby countries are to determine their location. And according to the information they reached, this ship did not sink, and all the evidence proves that the ship is still sailing. But they tell them that the devices may have been broken, but the department head was sure that the devices were only broken by an agent after Park's men killed all the police. Park frees the rest of the prisoners, their friends. In this meanwhile, we see the policewoman Diane on the deck of the ship. We know that this is her guard place. The doctor comes out of the engine room, so she asks him, and she says to him, "Where were you?" But the doctor was able to lie to her and deceive her, and the police chief orders her to leave the doctor. But suddenly they notice a strange person in the command room, and they see him coming down from it with an axe in his hand. So they head to the place to know who are in the command room, and now we see Park kill one of the prisoners because he went too far with him in words. Then the butcher Lee comes out. He is very cold, so he asks them about the reason for their escape. Park tells him, "We escaped to be free, but he wants to stay in prison." And in the meantime, Park is making a vote on the idea that they stay in prison, but no one votes. And now we see the policewoman and her colleagues as they find the command room. As soon as they enter, they are hit with an axe, but they were able to pass him quickly. They kill the one who threw the axe at them. But we know that there was a group hiding under the office. After killing someone from them, they head to kill the investigator, the policewoman, and the chief of police. But they were able to hide behind an iron office that prevents bullets. These criminals were merciless, so they kept shooting randomly and continuously, and after they ran out of bullets, they reload and continue shooting as if they were determined to kill them. So the policewoman takes advantage of their advance and hits one of them, and the one who senses danger, he took the captain as a hostage for a period of time until they leave their weapons, and indeed, they succeeded. The chief of police ordered them to give up their weapons. But the policewoman was stronger than them, and she did not listen to the police chief's words, and she was able to attack this criminal, and the rest of the police were able to kill him because he was left alone. This time the police were able to overcome them, so the policewoman asks the captain about any means of communication to Korea, and the captain tells her that this means is only in the 700 engine room because the one in the command room was destroyed by the criminals. After the doctor hears the sound of gunfire, he goes to his room and closes it because he was afraid. Meanwhile, they transfer all the police bodies to the refrigerator, especially on the ship. And we notice that the blood spread everywhere as the blood began to slip into the ship's area, and spread stimulates the dead body to come back to life. Suddenly it dries up, it starts moving, and removes all the devices from it, and we know this body is transformed so that the eye was closed and the body is twice the size of a human body. After that, we see Park's men descending to the engine room because they wanted to destroy the last station to communicate with Korea, and as usual, every time they descend, they kill and shed blood. So the ship is under their control, and indeed its fate is all means of communication, and even the landline telephone was broken after that. They kill all the engineers under the ship, and no one remains except the chief engineer, and he warns them and tells them not to kill him because the ship might break down and no one will be able to fix it except him. But they did not listen to his words and wanted to kill him, but said, "We will need him." And suddenly the police intervene and interrupt their conversation. But the engineer refused to shoot in this place because these engines are sensitive, and it is possible that these engines stop and we will be stuck in the middle of the sea, so they decide to use tools for killing, such as an axe, pieces of iron, and all repair tools. Indeed, the battle takes place between the criminals and the police, and a huge number of both sides die. But despite all the warning, they use weapons, and suddenly they hear a loud, strange sound of footsteps, and we see this corpse as it moved away from the central care systems, began to kill anyone who confronts it. We know that this corpse is a human body mixed with wolf genes, and this is the first body to have this experiment from the characteristics of this monster. He has a very strong sense of hearing, sees things, and senses them thermally. This monster has a terrible strength that is 10 times the strength of a normal man, and he is very brutal. He heads to the police, and because they do not know the strength of this corpse, they seem to attack it, but their attack ends with their death. Park decided to confront the monster, but what happened no one expected, and Park died at the hands of the monster. Unfortunately, the engines stop as a result of the various incidents, and the ship remains stuck in the sea and does not move or take a step. Meanwhile, the police chief decides to confront the monster, and after a long battle he overpowers him and is about to kill him, but suddenly the butcher intervenes and is satisfied to stab him. But he saw a mark on the monster's chest, and the mark reminds him of something from the past, and the one who remains astonished by it. The policeman and the president fleeing from fear, and they escapes with another criminal with them. Suddenly the police unite with the criminals to attack the monster themselves. As for the monster, he was about to eliminate the butcher, but in the last moments the policewoman kept shooting at the monster and helping Butcher escape, but we know that the monster was with the ability to removing the bullets from his body without pain, and the policewoman remains stunned by what she saw. So quickly Butcher pulls her and tries to close the engine room door on the monster, but the monster resists the door and tries to open it, but Butcher kicks him with his foot and manages to close the doors. Then we know that there was an old criminal with them, and this criminal tells them that the uniform that the monster wearing is a very old uniform, and it goes back more than 70 years. In the Forces Center, they were able to determine the location of the ship via satellite and confirm that the ship is not sinking. And also they confirm that everything that happened was the work of an agent. After that, we see the captain and his assistant trying to escape through the lifeboat. But something happens. We see the monster is able to move from the bottom of the ship to the surface through the stairs and quickly attacks the captain and the assistant. Unfortunately, he kills them while the assistant of Doctor hears their voices screaming and wakes up the doctor to see what happened. But she is overcome with curiosity to know what happens on the ship. And when she looks out the window, the monster puts his hand in and kills the assistant. The doctor quickly flees from the place and the police. When the criminals see the doctor, they know that he is in a state of fear and panic and tells them that the monster woke up, and I didn't do anything, but I gave him a drug. But the police were surprised by his words, and they wanted to know more information, so they began to threaten him in to inquire from him. So the doctor tells them the truth and tells them that the company paid him money, and they made me drug the corpse on the ship. Here, the criminal knew the name of this company, and knew that the company is a specialist in experimenting and injecting a drug that makes people look 10 years younger. This is a corpse. It is one of their failed experiments, so they have to anesthetize it every 6 hours so that it doesn't cause them harm. After that, we see the rest of the criminals. In the second cabin, they were able to free their friends who were in the remaining cells, but unfortunately, they were attacked by the monster, and the monster caused the deaths of all of them, and only 2 of them came out. Only they were able to escape from the monster, and the doctor and the survivors went to the bottom of the ship because the doctor's tools were there, and they went to the doctors to treat them. Now we go back, and we know that the drops of blood brought the monster back to life, and he attacks the guards and kills them and begins to roam the ship. The doctor began to treat the old criminal. Meanwhile, we see the chief of police searching for the rest of the criminals, but he only finds corpses. As for those who were able to escape, they remained stuck in the elevator. But unfortunately, there is evidence that the old criminal is also a mutant and has supernatural powers. So they took him after they killed his mother, and he remained locked up in prison because he has a supernatural power like his father. But suddenly we see him swimming, and he was able to reach the seashore and walk on the beach. And he was able to survive the battle and drowning in the sea. And we see him with his own eyes intending revenge on the company that manufactured this medicine. That will be the end of the movie.